I'm always hesitant in sort of starting to talk because then something kicks in and then something else kicks in and then something else. You just don't know. I think it'd be great to have like a an understanding of um, um, what and when and how. Anyway, you're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show. Amit always tells me to tell you to turn your phone sideways.
Side.
Um,
Really?
yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah, like that.
get a panoramic view.
Yeah, no, it's widescreen. Looks a lot better. You fill the screen then, as opposed to doing that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
Each week, bring some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. Gosh, when we do help, let's share the screen, see what happens. Can you see what can you see, Jeff?
I can see your pretty face with a rainbow tie on, is it?
All right, okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
the rainbow color tie.
And your pretty
I know you're
face.
very fond of it.
Prettier face. Yeah, I love rainbow ties. Do you not love rainbow ties?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're the best ties in the world. Is what they are. Anyway, it's Friday the 13th, and it definitely feels like it's Friday the 13th.
I thought it was
Yeah.
I thought it was bright and brisky, but cold at the same time this morning.
Yeah, so sadly, I say sadly, it is sad because my daughter hasn't been too well, and I've been a little bit under the weather as well. And my daughter was at home yesterday, and then she jumped in the bed last night and kept me awake all night. So I'm struggling a little bit this morning. Um, and it's funny, isn't it? Because when you think about kids and the challenges that parents have with childcare and when they're not well and who gets priority and whatever else, my incredible, amazing wife um, does the best job ever of juggling a job which is far more important than mine. She looks after the kids primarily. She looks after the house, does like all of that juggling, and she's amazing. And then occasionally I need to step in. I always feel guilty, by the way. Always, I'm constantly feeling guilty as I mean, I define myself as a man. So as a man, I always feel really guilty, um, and I feel as if I'm never doing enough or doing good enough, or always like, oh right, because it's anyway, because the house stuff is never done. Um, but yeah, on the odd occasion that I then have to lead in and look after the kids, where on a very rare occasion, you then just realise how challenging it can be. Is what I do. Josh, that was
Yes.
just a confession. I
No, it's
wasn't
good.
expecting
Good. It's
a
not.
response.
It's no, I'm just thinking about everything that you're saying, and in the when you put that in the context of business, Ammar, no one knows all of those difficulties and what's happened the night before, and unfortunately, I guess there's that expectation to deliver as a constant.
Yeah, none of my customers, none of my clients, none of the businesses that we're supporting are really bothered. They might have some empathy, and I can
Mhm,
understand that and appreciate that. And this isn't that they don't care. It's
mhm,
just more fact that they've got their own
mhm,
worries and problems. And that's why I've always been of the view a problem shared is a problem shared,
mhm,
right? Never ever a problem halved.
mhm,
Yeah, I think a problem's a problem, however you cut it, and it's your problem. I think talking about things are incredibly helpful, and it's so important. And actually, it was World Suicide Day earlier this week, and gosh, I'm aware of people who've passed, and and it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And I also am aware of a number of people who have had those type of thoughts. It's so common, people having suicidal thoughts. Oh my gosh, I wish I wasn't here. Oh my gosh, wouldn't the world be a better place? It's horrific to think that.
Mm.
Horrific. But but suicide, I wouldn't say it's been normalized, but it's it's far more prevalent. There's nothing normal about it. Anyway, I'm going from one extreme to the other, and the reason why I'm sharing it is because you're absolutely right. Um, you know, that the challenges that affect an individual, we should all try and be a little bit more considerate. So I'm exhausted this morning, and me admitting it live on air and on video and things like that. But just to demonstrate, because I am, and I said to Elizabeth when I rang her from my car earlier, I said, it's Friday the 13th, and I'm so suspicious. And she's like, do you not mean superstitious? I'm going, yeah, of course that's what I meant. It's just my head's not working. So I'd forgotten the charger. Here's a bit of drama, right? And I'm sure everyone's really interested in this. But so I'd left the house this morning. Wife took daughter. I'm still not right. She's not 100%, but actually she's desperate to go to school. She wants to go to school. And because it's sometimes a challenge getting her into school, and she's just settling in the new term, we thought it would be the best for her. And she wanted to go. Anyway, she gets there. She doesn't want to go into school, so there's all this drama there. Wife on the phone. I get to work and I forgot my charger, right? And I need my laptop because we've got the radio show. So I'm sat there going, oh my gosh, if I drive back to the home now, whilst I'm incredibly fortunate, I live about 8 minutes away from the office, it's still a pain in the butt. And plus, there's school traffic and everything else. So I wait. I then pull, because I'd come in a jacket because it was cold, I then pull my car key out the jacket, jump in the car, drive home to find that I've left my house keys in my jacket that I decided not to take. So I've then had to drive all the way back. I've then had to come here and then drive all the way back again, and then come back again. And I was sat there, and it's funny, right? Because probably relatively, and it's about mindset, right? Is the point. So superstition is just that. It's about mindset, right? So if you think you're having a bad day, or if you feel as if you're going to have a bad day, the likelihood is that's exactly the type of day you're going to have, right? So you're gonna have. So I've got up this morning going, oh, it's Friday the 13th. Oh my gosh, it's like it is the end of the world, and I'm exhausted, and there's a conspiracy against me, and all of these things, and it's Friday the 13th, and that's exactly the experience that I'm having.
Well,
Whereas, if we should be grateful for being able to have all of the things that we have, and it's like, I mean, touch wood, right?
yeah, but I think everyone can have, like you said, Ammar, it's obviously, fine, well, it's a matter of emotional moments. And I think for us, it can only be a moment. It can't kind of drag on because there's just far too much going on, and there's too much responsibility for that emotional state, which everyone goes through. It's a matter of zapping out of it, isn't it? And they say that, oh well, you can't do it with a flick of a switch, but I think there's been so many instances where you really have to, because imagine you're having a really bad day, but then you've got meetings lined up, one meeting to the other meeting, and the fourth meeting, they don't care that you've had 1, 2, 3 45-minute intense meetings because the fourth meeting just needs to be as productive as the first one. So the mental frame, I guess it's a matter of, understanding, it's Friday the 13th, A, B, C, and D, but then it has to you have to all swipe it out with a flick of a switch and get back to the ordinary, focused, positive frame of mind, because without which the day becomes a lot more difficult, doesn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think you're absolutely spot on. I have got meetings. I did have meetings. I've got meetings back to back. I've equally got major projects and other challenges that are associated with business more generally, and dealing with some of the nonsense that comes from, sadly, people, business, people. And actually, it's really sad, I think, over the last few years, Jeff. I don't know how what your view is, but there seems to be a far more prevalence of sort of people being malicious, not nice, vindictive. As in, I come up with this phrase: people are offended at not being offended. So unless someone's offended, there's a problem, right? So it's like people not just being able to live their lives and things like that. It's sad,
Do you
isn't it?
do you think, Ammar, it's down to? I think there's pressures in society, and unfortunately, I think there's a change of human beings in that. For me, I feel that the great virtues of humans, such as kindness, do you visualize kindness with an older person or a younger person? Because for me, the word kind, what props up in my head is a mother or a grandmother kind of esque, because they used to have that as a virtue. Whereas when you think about nouveau individuals or younger individuals, I don't think they don't understand kindness as much as the older generation.
Well, I absolutely, I agree with you, but it also feels like it's not just the preserve being unkind, right? Because there's being kind, but actually people sadly are almost going out their way to be unkind, right? So that I think your view, you're like, as in everything's a problem, and they're looking for ways to vent their frustrations and
Yes.
angers and such,
So,
like their
so
jealousy, and
yeah,
all of these traits. Like Pandora's box seems to be sort of so much more prevalent, doesn't it?
yeah, I just feel that the societal pressures of today, and the way that society is built, when you have like a lack of faith and things like that, I think the emotions of and the characteristics of humans is beginning to change, and I think that's why you're having these type of scenarios where I just don't think people's boundaries of being good and kind, they're not as important to their life as maybe as it once used to be, or what was shared with us when we were kids: be good, be kind, be this, that I just don't think that is as high on an agenda of how people are looking at themselves. And I think society is, because of that reason, I feel that there is a lot more issues and pressures that are out there. And I do feel exactly what you're saying, Ammar. I feel it and I see it, and I think there is big change, because and I don't think society is going to be in a better place for it.
It's just sad, isn't it? As in,
Mm.
I am really saddened that people having chips on their shoulder, people
Yeah,
being angry, people
entitlement.
going to war, people going to war. People sort of. I think all of the. I'm not just talking about microaggressions, right? As in, I'm talking about like literally the whole world seems to be so divided, and it's just sad. It's so
Mm.
sad. Anyway, it is what it is. You know, it's a term that
Well,
you
it's like you said. I mean,
we need to try and address it though. We
but
do
how do
need to
you,
try and do something with it.
Amar, how do you address it? Because when you look at the big picture, the politicians, they are the ones that have a huge say in what happens in society. Whilst you may have actors and sportsmen who may look as though that they are heroes and people look up to them, or they're role models in certain ways, or they live a lifestyle that some people adhere to, they're not in a position to make decisions and change society. But the
Yeah.
politicians are. And when you look at the politicians and the power that they wield, and they make decisions which aren't to, that they're not there to kind of bring humanity together and bring different, cultures and countries together and avoid kind of big wars and big fragmentation between nations. That's where it all really stems from. And then you have the good people on the good, great public that they can only do so much, but their kind of hands are tied because they're not the policy makers. So I think the policymakers are the ones that have a huge impact on how society functions. And that's a big worry, Amar, when they don't seem to be doing all that they can to kind of act in the best interest of humanity.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose we're getting incredibly deep, but it's relevant, right? Because it comes down to, yes, at that level, what are people saying? What are people hearing? What are people experiencing? If our leaders are behaving in a particular way, then that does normalize that behavior across society, right? It really interesting because a couple of months back, I wrote an article, and you've heard this, but I wrote an article. I do a monthly blog, um, and I wrote an article on how society's changed because of with a backdrop of Jerry Springer, Jeremy Kyle, right? And last week or the week before, Jeremy Kyle was in the news because a gentleman who had appeared on his show had done a lie detector test. The lie detector test was turns out was wrong. He denied having an affair, but he was bullied by Jeremy Kyle, normalized this behavior, all of this, and he committed suicide.
Mm.
And it's like, anyway, I mean, there's even and within that, it was the normalization of abnormal behavior. You know, there was the Channel 4 shows, and there's other channels as well. But the Channel 4 shows like Naked Attraction, where
Ridiculous, man.
it's like
Jesus.
it's like, why are you encouraging
Yeah.
that type? I remember someone kissing on telly when I was sat with the family, and you wouldn't look the other way or you'd turn it off.
Yeah, of
It was
course, of
like,
course.
and that wasn't just an Asian thing. That was
Yeah,
a across the board thing.
yeah. I mean, I just think that it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, but we know. I mean, that's another deep conversation, something that we don't need to go into right now. But we know why. It's to set the precedent of what should be acceptable in society, and those things shouldn't be acceptable in society. And we've had like some great. There's so many great rules in place. So, for example, a movie, that's a 12, that's a 15, that's an 18. It was all everything was there. But if you imagine them, I bet you, without even knowing, what's classed as okay as a movie, which is for people that are 15 plus. I bet you those boundaries have changed in the last 10 to 15 years. There's no way you can have a movie which is 15 plus today. 20 years ago, that movie would be 18 plus. So the age boundaries are getting lower and lower.
Yeah, it's sad. Sad is what it is. Anyway, let's get into the sun is shining. It is a Friday. It's it's the second week of kids going back, and let's just find out what's been going on in the world. So, okay, so this week's headlines, Jeff. Northeast MPs vote on the winter fuel payment motion. Northeast MPs voted on the winter fuel motion. Outcome of the vote was MPs voted 349 to 228 in favour of means testing the winter fuel payment, restricting it to those on pension credit or other benefits rather than giving it all to pensioners. Northeast MPs who abstained. So 6 MPs from the Northeast abstained from the vote, including Mary Foy, Sharon Hodgson, Ian Lavery, Emma Llewellyn-Buck, Graham Morris, and Kate Osborne. Many expressed discomfort with the options, and there was there's a range of a list of MPs here who had voted for and against, and the sad part of it, I get the economy's a challenge, Jack. Right?
It's disgraceful, man. Forget the bloody economy. You're telling me you can't you can't look after the elderly in one of the most developed nations in the world, and have to bring the economy into it when they just throw money left, right, and centre to wars and this and that, and they can't give winter fuel payments, and there's people abstaining against it. What, abstaining? What? You don't have an opinion? You shouldn't be allowed to abstain. You're an MP. They have to make a decision. Make the decision.
Oh, undoubtedly.
I'll abstain. I'm gonna like hide away from it. What? Because maybe Keir Starmer has turned around and said, if you do vote against it, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do whatever, and that's why they're abstaining. I don't know what, but I think it's just outrageous, Ammar. It really is.
Yeah, it is, and it's incredibly sad. And you're right. And I suppose this is where the challenge with priorities are. For me, our country should be prioritizing our country above anything else. So, funding wars and various other things. Now, it's a very interesting and deep debate. Again, for me, we need to be looking after our people. We need to be addressing poverty, homelessness, all of the challenges that are affecting society, housing, first and foremost. That's what should be happening, as opposed to saying we're doing all of these cuts here and then spending money elsewhere. It just, anyway, beggars belief is what it does. So, it's, I think we need to look after our elderly without a doubt. They should be prioritized. They've contributed so significantly. They should be able to rightly enjoy their retirement, their pensions, and such like, and the costs associated with energy, primarily, has come about not through their fault, but through misplaced policies and agendas that were simply incorrect and political. Anyway, that's that. New framework to boost Northeast reputation as regenerative visitor destination, Jeff. So a new regenerative visitor economy framework has been launched to position the Northeast as a world-class sustainable visitor destination. It was developed with input from 200 stakeholders across the tourism industry. And the framework focuses on decarbonisation, supporting the local supply chain, investing in people and places, connecting communities, and restoring nature and culture. So the economic importance is around about 1.6 billion, sorry, 6.1 billion pound, and supports 63 jobs in the Northeast. 63,000 jobs is what our visitor economy demonstrates. And then the third one is, it's just about the NHS and the challenges there. It's incredibly sad, isn't it?
Yep, it really is.
So Lord Darcy, a wonderful guy, a clinician, carried out a review of the NHS and sort of said it's not just um, the NHS and the staff that are sustaining it. It's actually the patients. Patients are being far accepting of the challenges. Whereas if you think about the Jalf, the patients are the customers, the patients are the ones who are paying for it, right?
Mm.
So should the patients not expect a better service rather than years of waiting lists and
Of course,
kids not
it's outrageous.
being provided the support?
It's outrageous. Where does all the taxes go to, though? That's the whole thing. You're taxed up to the hilt. Businesses have been stifled. In any opportunity that any government has throughout history, any opportunity to take more money away, tax here, tax there, take away this benefit, take away this, it's all happening as a constant, and this has been for years. So the kitty, Chancellor's kitty, is going to be bigger than ever before because the taxes are bigger than ever before, but yet the return on the huge taxes in society, I just can't see where the benefit is in society. And the taxes are supposed to go rightfully a lot to the, yes, infrastructure, but the health is right up there, isn't it? And even Ammar, we bring in international chefs. And do you know how much they have to pay? There's an NHS surcharge. It's about 3.5 grand per person.
Yeah, I know. Someone had come in from the Saudi, and they were spending money they'd set up here and whatever else, and they'd used the service, and the surcharge was they'd had an infection in a finger and they went to A&E and it was like thousands of pounds, and they were like, but I'm paying to be here. I'm
Yeah.
like contributing. It's anyway. I don't have an objection against the NHS charging people who haven't contributed from
Yeah.
here.
No, I understand. I agree with it. I agree that there should be a charge. Never used to be a charge. That this is quite a recent phenomena. My point I'm trying to make is there is
It's not. It's never been enforced. Is the thing.
okay,
So
but it is getting enforced, and there is an extra millions and millions of pounds coming in to the NHS. So there's that extra additional income coming in from that area that there never was. So again, that money should go towards offering obviously a better service, making sure that you're investing in the infrastructure of hospitals and doctors and whatever else you need to do. But again, it doesn't seem as though that there's some mismanagement somewhere.
oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. It's you know, it's the inefficiencies, the challenges, the bureaucracy. I mean, we've talked about this, right? Because I'm incredibly fortunate, and I love the people that I've engaged with within the NHS who are really passionate. I've been incredibly fortunate to see firsthand the impact of IT leaders, digital leaders trying to make a difference, managing costs. I mean, year on year, there was a last year they sort of said, oh, we need you to reduce all your costs by 30%, just like that, right? Now, I agree the level of inefficiency that exists because actually, equally, whilst I'm a huge advocate and ambassador of a number of organizations, overall, I can see the waste. I can see the challenge in beliefs and behaviors. People not wanting to change a system because it's always been done like that. Doctors not wanting to type things. They want to continue writing things despite it being saving like so much time, effort, and energy. Doctors having to pick up the phone to call the hospital to wait for a consultant to refer a patient, and because they're doing that, right, no one else can come in to see the doctor. So someone presents themselves at a doctor, and the doctor thinks they should go to hospital. The doctor has to pick up the phone, call the consultant, have the conversation, and then wait for the consultant who might be actually in theatre or whatever it is. So all of a sudden, that process can take like a couple of hours. What's the impact of that on the surgery? Whereas actually, if you were just able to use technology effectively, so there is a shift there, and it's really useful and it's quite exciting. But there's 16,000 organizations within the NHS, 16,000 individual business units. Where's the efficiency there? And the vast majority are competing for funding, right? I know so many organizations that are competing for funding within the NHS that actually could probably do the same thing. It's mad.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think there's some positive shoots there, though. I think it's great to have someone like Lord Darcy. He's a great person, and the way that he's carried out a deep review within the space of 8 9 weeks and published a report and said, "Here's the things that we really need to explore." And I think critical. He's just like sort of used his experience and expertise to look at how do we improve things. So it will require investment, but more so than an investment, it requires transformation. It can't be the same thing and expecting a different result. I'm looking forward to what happens there, but it's not going to be instantaneous, is what it is. Anyway, coming on to the topic of the week. Here's the thing, Jeff. Here's the thing. Um, it's it's it is how to make your business look bigger. Why would you want it to look bigger, Jeff?
Um, would you want it to look bigger? I guess you would want it
Yeah,
to
I
look
think
more professionally set up, um, with the right infrastructure and A, B, C, and D. But I'm not sure about look bigger. But let's have a look at what you've got to say.
fair enough. So 10 ways to make your SME look bigger. So get a professional website, clean, well-branded, mobile-friendly website, builds credibility, social proof, showcase client testimonials and highlight any big brands you've worked with. Virtual office address, use a prestigious virtual address to appear more established if you're working from home. Outsource, hire external help for key tasks to seem like a bigger, larger operation. Social media presence, post regularly on social media, stay active and visible. Professional photos, use high quality images of your team and services for a polished look. Multiple contact options, provide email, phone, and chat for professional customer service. Quality content, publish blogs or articles to establish your authority. Attend events, go to industry events to network and raise your profile. Paid ads, use targeted ads to increase visibility and reach a wider audience. What do you think about that, Jeff?
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, those are so important. I guess bigger, the word bigger, it's probably more about how do you come across as being a very well-run professional outfit.
Yeah, and when you're starting off, I remember starting off, and there was just me, but I had like 3 4 different emails, the accounts at, sales at, whatever it was. I find it extraordinary that people still use personal domains like Gmail or iCloud or Outlook when having a business domain is relatively cheap and incredibly attractive as well.
Yeah.
So I suppose for sole traders, for individuals, small organizations, those tips are great. When you get to a certain point, you almost want to go back the other way, don't you? You just wish it was you, and you didn't have to manage all of these people and all of the things that come with it, and worry with all of those whatever. But no, I think it's good. I think it's good. Having a growing, thriving business, and it creates a catalyst. So the more you big up your business and the more you platform your business, the more likelihood is you're going to get more business. You know, it's that virtuous cycle, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
So yesterday, the we hosted. Sadly, I didn't get there, which I was so disappointed about. But at the beginning of this year, Jeff, we launched the Inclusion by Default campaign, and um, and we had a big conference, and then we organised roundtables. We've done surveys, and with the Entrepreneurs Forum, we'd agreed to do a bit of a faith tour. And originally, we were going to do that in sort of March, April, and then it was pushed back to September. Um, and the faith tour was for Entrepreneur Forum members to go around to the Hindu temple at the West Road, Elzik Mosque, and then the Sikh Gurdwara. So Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, and meet the faith leaders, have very open conversations, and just find out a bit more to dispel some of the myths that exist. And they went round, and anyway, the point why I was like, so excited that it was happening and that we'd enabled it to happen and worked with the Entrepreneurs Forum was because a lot of the nonsense that came out of the riots and the civil unrest or whatever else you want to call it were based on uneducated elements of people not understanding religion and what it truly is and the impact and how it creates communities and the value it brings. And we should respect and appreciate all religions. And I've just pointed out three of the major South Asian religions across Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. And that's where these religions are the most prevalent. But also the fact that these religions have been prevalent in Newcastle in the northeast for decades. You know, my late father was the general secretary of the mosque, helped establish the mosque in Elzik. You know, and similarly, you know, sort of Vikas's father, you know, was critical to the establishment of the Hindu temple, and Raj Singh, you know, has been significantly involved in the Gurdwara. And these venues, so the thing that people don't understand is these venues are real community focal points still. So a bit like churches, right? You'd go to church, you'd do your faith, you'd do, you know, the religious part, but then alongside that, you would network, you'd learn things. There was reading, writing. You know, churches fulfilled such a substantive part of the community, and that's why there were so many churches across the whole of England. Now, the demise of those churches, I'd say, has translated into community breakdown. You know, the fabric of communities coming together around focal points, really taking a big hit. But in mosques, gurdwaras, and temples, or mandirs as they're known, that community, sense of community still exists, where people go, they do business, you know, they talk, they meet each other. They don't necessarily do business, but they, you know, they go with a family. There's family events. There's a real pull around it. There's teaching. There's learning. There's more community oriented. I know the mosque in Elzik runs a whole range of social and well-being classes and everything else. So it was wonderful that we managed to get round the whole of those three places and venues. And then, you know, they also had langar. So langar is made daily to feed people in the Gurdwara, and it's vegetarian, and it's a wonderful thing to do, Jeff.
I think it's a brilliant. It's. I think it's so important. I think it doesn't matter where you are, which country you are. There's always a need, even if it's for community cohesion, to have that opportunity to provide food to bring people together is just an amazing thing that they're doing.
And Amit and Stephen done an amazing job representing ABC, and the feedback has been first class. And I'm really proud of the Entrepreneurs Forum as well. So yeah, it's a wonderful organisation that I've said to you regularly you need to get more involved in. Is what I say, and it's been a great help from my perspective and we've been to those events, haven't we? We've been to that learning. Probably one of the best learning and the best events was hosted by them, like decades ago.
Yeah.
So we're getting into the countdown, Jalf, of the ABC Awards. So that's happening on the 17th of October, which is I think it's a big highlight of the year, and not just for ABC. I think for the region, and it is the most inclusive celebration in the Northeast. And it's happening at the Gosforth Park. It's inclusion by default. So as part of the inclusion by default campaign, these awards support the goal of making the Northeast the most inclusive region in England by 2025. And table sales are flying. I don't think there's that many, if any, tables, and it's down to tickets now, I think. So if you've been nominated and shortlisted, congratulations. I think it's wonderful. And I'm looking forward to seeing Tommy Sandu, who's a wonderful
He's brilliant.
comedian,
Brilliant.
isn't he?
Oh, well, he's a comedian, he's a host, he's a presenter, and he's
He's
brilliant
all
at
round.
everything that he does. Yeah.
He's an all-round fun and funny person, is what he is. Jaff. Okay. So and the inclusion by default campaign will continue on this mission. We've got roundtables, curry clubs lined up, lots of exciting things happening. I can't wait for. So tell me, Jaff, football, what's the latest?
Yeah, football, obviously, we've been on international break. From a Newcastle perspective.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that Premier League stops, and there's a thing called Nations League, which is international. So England were involved in 2 matches, Republic of Ireland and against Finland. But most importantly, Anthony Gordon started both games, and he played really, really well, which is, I'm so pleased that he's doing so well. He's such a lovely boy. Along with Tino Livramento was in the squad, and Nick Pope was in the squad. So we had 3 players from Newcastle who were in the England squad, which is really good. And then this week it starts again. We're away to Wolves, televised 4:30 on Sunday. Really winnable game. If we can beat them, we'll be right in the mix, top of the table. Well, right up there with the top 4 or 5 teams. And then we've got a Carabao Cup match against Wimbledon away. I think it's on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. And then after that, Ammar, we are away to Fulham. So it's 3 away games in a row. But hopefully, if we can beat Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup, get into the next round, which is actually the last 16, and somehow pull it off by beating Fulham, we'll be right up there. And then it's Man City at home on the 28th, which is end of the month, which is a big game.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Is what I am. And it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I think we've got off to a really good start. We've had a bit of disappointment with the transfer window, and the journalists always try to blow things up and say, oh yeah, there's like a hierarchy battle and A, B, C, and D. But at the end of the day, I think Eddie Howe is just such an amazing manager, incredible professional. He's also got he has to have a strong personality. So of course, no one's going to find it that easy to come into his no one's you can't step on Eddie Howe's toes. So if you want to be the new sporting director or the new performance director, you've got to come and respect and understand Eddie Howe and how he functions, because he is the manager at the end of the day. It's his players, it's his squad. But if you want to come and add value to that, then I guess there needs to be a very strong professional conversation with Eddie. And I'm sure Paul Mitchell and James Bunce, the sporting director and performance director, would have had very open, clear, professional, strategic conversations. And I just think they need a bit of time to gel, and hopefully the next transfer window, which starts in 1st of January, they'll be able to really get 1 or 2 more players in the squad, and hopefully we'll be up there fighting for the top 4, which would then give the ability to bring in higher profile of players.
Yeah. And I think your observations are very valid. It's everyone's got a view, haven't they? I mean, if we go back to the beginning, and sadly, a lot of those views are just sort of baseless, based on, oh my God, let's create this and let's say this and let's do that. All relationships take time to embed. There is that forming, norming, storming part. And I think it's quite sort of interesting that the views from external reporters are based on. There's always been a challenge with people writing negative things about Newcastle, right? As in, not that I've got a chip on my shoulder, but there is that, isn't it?
I mean, but Ammar, it's a lot of local journalists as well that are putting things that, oh my God, there's been uproar, and they need to sell papers, don't they? And the natural instinct is what's gonna grab the headlines. How do I word this in order to make it look more dramatic than what it is, so we can turn heads and get people's attentions? And they do that, and fans sometimes they jump on that. So I think everyone needs to be pragmatic. You need to understand where we've come from the Mike Ashley era. Yes, we need to put that behind us, but at the same token, we lived through that and we know what it's like. So I think for me, all of this is a bonus from where we are. Yes, we want to hopefully win something and challenge the bigger teams, but I think it's not going to be done instantaneously. But I think the framework is fantastic, and I think Eddie Howe is the silver lining.
Yeah, I think so. Without a doubt. So I think football's one thing. Generally, Jalf, what's happening in the city centre?
The city centre, Ammar, I had some visitors in from after the Great North Run on the Monday. We had some, and I don't think this is hidden, so I'll be able to share it. I had the owners of Eldon Square in, and some other big developers from around the country, and Eldon Garden is going through a massive makeover. That there's a organization in Manchester. It's called Freight Island, and they have about 60,000 square foot of space. It's supposed to be the next best thing, especially in Manchester, where it's like really taken off. So they have a venue which is it's a combination of bars, restaurants, and live entertainment. And these guys reckon that societally, the big change is for you to have, those are the things that apparently people are looking for. They want to eat, they want to drink, but they want live entertainment. And I think that's the next best thing, according to their research. And these are like big guys. And they're spending like very big money to bring that to Newcastle on the rooftop of Eldon Square.
Fair enough.
And
yeah, I'll tell you what was interesting, because I mean, it's not something that I've necessarily considered, but Liverpool and Newcastle have historic similarities, right? They were maritime capitals of the world. There's the river going through them. There's the docks. There's all of that. And if I track Liverpool's development over from a leisure and hospitality perspective, right? Loads of hotels, conference center, right? So major development. I mean, I'm still hungover and hung up at the fact that they got the city of culture, and we should have got it right. But anyway,
of course, 100%.
they did, and it done them a wonderful job. Now, the type of things that they've developed were sort of, warehousey type sort of food places and spaces. I was there, like Stack type things 10 years ago, right? Maybe not that long, but actually, yeah, I mean, I was looking at no, maybe not that long, maybe 7 years ago, whenever it was, but some time ago, before Stack became a Stack here, and then the live entertainment side of things, where there's so many venues around live entertainment, and it's really interesting because we'd gone along to the Stack, and they had, it was lunchtime, had a fabulous food from this OK Please place, really tasty. Couldn't recommend it enough, and you need to go and experience it for something unique and exciting and different, particularly in that type of space and place. And they had live music on from sort of 12, half 12.
Yeah.
And she was so good. She was so good. And you could see the atmosphere change a little bit more. So if you're trying to create a space or a place where it isn't just about the company you're in, and you're trying to make it sticky, I imagine that research has some value to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult.
I don't know.
They've got obviously these are big guys and they're doing research, and I think it must be a national trend. So I think I just can't envisage where the entrance is. How do you get there? Where's the access? I just can't see you going through Eldon Square and Northumberland Street to get to the rooftop. I just can't see that's not going to work. So there must be an entrance somewhere else.
To Eldon Garden?
Yeah, to the rooftop.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got is it not Clayton Street? Is it Clayton Street or
from the back?
Percy?
From
Percy.
The back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
where the bus station is.
Yeah,
and
so
then there's the
thousands of people would go through that back entrance. It's not something that
they would have done the footfall and everything. Anyway, yeah, I mean it'd be interesting. It's great that you've got that insight, and you're right. Yeah, I don't think you're sharing anything that you shouldn't be, but I think there's more things that are happening in the city centre. My challenge with it is there's a real disconnect with transport systems and even length footfall, which is a different story.
Yeah,
it's a different story,
yeah,
is what it is. Anyway, we'll be back next week. I'll be dialing in from Newcastle.
Your only Bollywood station
University.
in Newcastle.
Until then,
Spice
goodbye.
FM 90.